Hi, how are you? Welcome to our teaching zone. In previous video I was discuss about Introduction, the need for a new constitution, forming a more perfect union. In this video we will talk about debating the Constitution, ratifying the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, amendments to the Constitution, the Constitution today. Debating the Constitution. The delegates had been tasked by Congress with amending the Articles of Confederation. However, they soon began deliberating proposals for an entirely new form of government. After intensive debate, which continued throughout the summer of 1787 and at times threatened to derail the proceedings, they developed a plan that established three branches of national government: executive, legislative and judicial. A system of checks and balances was put into place so that no single branch would have too much authority. The specific powers and responsibilities of each branch were also laid out. Among the more contentious issues was the question of state representation in the national legislature. Delegates from larger states wanted population to determine how many representatives a state could send to Congress, while small states called for equal representation. The issue was resolved by the Connecticut Compromise, which proposed a bicameral legislature with proportional representation of the states in the lower house, House of Representatives, and equal representation in the upper house, Senate. Another controversial topic was slavery. Although some northern states had already started to outlaw the practice, they went along with the southern states' insistence that slavery was an issue for individual states to decide and should be kept out of the Constitution. Many northern delegates believed that without agreeing to this, the South wouldn't join the Union. For the purposes of taxation and determining how many representatives a state could send to Congress, it was decided that slaves would be counted as 3/5 of a person. Additionally, it was agreed that Congress wouldn't be allowed to prohibit the slave trade before 1808, and states were required to return fugitive slaves to their owners. Ratifying the Constitution. By September 1787, the convention's five-member committee of Style, Hamilton, Madison, William Samuel Johnson of Connecticut, Gouverneur Morris of New York, Rufus King of Massachusetts, had drafted the final text of the Constitution, which consisted of some 4,200 words. On September 17, George Washington was the first to sign the document. Of the 55 delegates, a total of 39 signed. Some had already left Philadelphia, and 3 George Mason, 1725–92, and Edmund Randolph, 1753–1813, of Virginia, and Elbridge Gerry, 1744–1813, of Massachusetts refused to approve the document. In order for the Constitution to become law, it then had to be ratified by 9 of the 13 states. James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, with assistance from John Jay, wrote a series of essays to persuade people to ratify the Constitution. The 85 essays, known collectively as the Federalist, or the Federalist Papers, detailed how the new government would work, and were published under the pseudonym Publius, Latin for public, in newspapers across the states starting in the fall of 1787. People who supported the Constitution became known as Federalists, while those opposed it because they thought it gave too much power to the national government were called Anti-Federalists. Beginning on December 7, 1787, 5 states, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia and Connecticut, ratified the Constitution in quick succession. However, other states, especially Massachusetts, opposed the document, as it failed to reserve undelegate powers to the states and lacked constitutional protection of basic political rights such as freedom of speech, religion, and the press. In February 1788, a compromise was reached under which Massachusetts and other states would agree to ratify the document with the assurance that amendments would be immediately proposed. The Constitution was thus narrowly ratified in Massachusetts, followed by Maryland and South Carolina. On June 21, 1788, New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify the document, and it was subsequently agreed that government under the U.S. Constitution would begin on March 4, 1789. George Washington was inaugurated as America's first president on April 30, 1789. In June of that same year, Virginia ratified the Constitution, and New York followed in July. On February 2, 1790, the U.S. Supreme Court held its first session, marking the date when the government was fully operative. Rhode Island, the last holdout of the original 13 states, finally ratified the Constitution on May 29, 1790. The Bill of Rights. In 1789, Madison, then a member of the newly established U.S. House of Representatives, introduced 19 amendments to the Constitution. On September 25, 1789, Congress adopted 12 of the amendments and sent them to the states for ratification. 10 of these amendments, known collectively as the Bill of Rights, were ratified and became part of the Constitution on December 10, 1791. The Bill of Rights guarantees individuals certain basic protections as citizens, including freedom of speech, religion, and the press, the right to bear and keep arms, the right to peaceably assemble, protection from unreasonable search and seizure, and the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury. For his contributions to the drafting of the Constitution, as well as its ratification, Madison became known as Father of the Constitution. Amendments to the Constitution. To date, there have been thousands of proposed amendments to the Constitution. However, only 17 amendments have been ratified in addition to the Bill of Rights because the process isn't easy. After a proposed amendment makes it through Congress, it must be ratified by 3/4 of the states. The most recent amendment to the Constitution, Article XXVII, which deals with congressional pay raises, was proposed in 1789 and ratified in 1992. Since the Constitution came into force in 1789, it has been amended 27 times. In general, the first 10 amendments, known collectively as the Bill of Rights, offer specific protections of individual liberty and justice and place restrictions on the powers of government. The majority of the 17 later amendments expand individual civil rights protections. Others address issues related to federal authority or modify government processes and procedures. Amendments to the United States Constitution, unlike ones made to many constitutions worldwide, are appended to the end of the document. At 7 articles and 27 amendments, it is the shortest written constitution in force. All 5 pages of the original U.S. Constitution are written on parchment. The Constitution today. In the more than 200 years since the Constitution was created, America has stretched across an entire continent, and its population and economy have expanded more than the document's framers likely ever could have envisioned. Through all the changes, the Constitution has endured and adapted. The framers knew it wasn't a perfect document. However, as Benjamin Franklin said on the closing day of the convention in 1787, "I agree to this Constitution with all its faults, if they are such, because I think a central government is necessary for us. I doubt too whether any other convention we can obtain may be able to make a better Constitution." Today, the original Constitution is on display at the National Archives in Washington, D.C.